There we go. 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 Good morning. Good afternoon. Wherever you are. Good evening. Getting a little late going here. Had some unexpected issues. Still haven't gotten them fixed. So I thought we'd just sort of go with what we have. We're getting some frame drops here, which is unusual. Generally, this system's pretty solid, but we were getting render times up in the 150 millisecond range, which is not good, and frames per second instead of 30 down into the low 20s, high teens, which is not good. So we'll have to diagnose that. And of course, having pushed the show time up, we lost all our extra time. So who have we got with us? Cliff's here today. Hello, Cliff. I do acknowledge you, yes. Jim's here, Kyle, Danny, Richard V. Felix. Welcome, Richard V. Felix. Glad to have you. Rudy's here. My condolences on yesterday's match. Doggone it. I was cheering for the Belgian boys the whole way. David's here. Hey, David, we should have your X keys in. I think either tomorrow or Friday and out to you right away. Kenny Hampton is here. Ken Benedict is here. German V. Portillo Potetalco. I guess I got that right. I don't never know. And Rick is here. Welcome, guys. Glad to have you. And Kyle got a new job, according to Ken. No, he didn't. Okay. He's expanding his horizons. There you go. Looks like the render time is down under 30 milliseconds. Generally, it's down to like 2. So something is amiss with this PC. And I've got, do I have the, let's see if I've got the notify on. If I've got an issue with the GPU, CPU. Yeah, so show GPU, CPU alerts. Of course, it wants to restart. We're not doing that. Okay. Danny got a new mouse pad. Yeah, I was pleased to see that come through. We are the USA, what would you call it? Fulfillment center for vMix mouse pads. So if you need one, send a note to I want a mouse pad at vmix.com, and they will have me send you one if you're in the US or Canada, or Mexico for that matter. All the other destinations are sent from Australia, at least that I know of. They may have a European distribution center too. Let's see what else we got going here. We've got World Cup coming up in a little bit with the England side and the Croats. So that ought to be an interesting match. I enjoyed the French and Belgium match yesterday, although I wasn't pleased with the outcome. I thought it was a good match. Although there was one call, oh man, could have gone the other way, but isn't that always the case? Isn't that always the case? All right, let's see. How is the stability of this system now? Still milliseconds, render time in the 20s, 30s. Frame rate's up to 29 to 31, so that's kind of back to normal. But something is amiss. In fact, my second PC that I'm about to replace, the streaming PC, restarted all by itself a few minutes ago. So if you noticed, if you were waiting for the show and the stream dropped momentarily, that's what it was. So that wasn't very good. Not happy with that particular situation. Have to find out what it is. You say, well, Tom, you build these things. How come you're having problems? Well, I build the ones for me out of spare parts. One of these days I'm going to have a nice one like I can send to you. But today, unfortunately, is not that day. Actually, I'm experimenting. We're still in pre-show here. I'm experimenting with an i3 processor to see how well that will do as a kind of a limited service budget machine. It's an i3, I don't remember which one, but it's 4 megahertz on the CPU. And I've got it on the workbench right now. Just got through polishing it yesterday, and had hoped to get it in the cycle for today's show, but it just didn't make it. So, oh well. Let's see. What is this thing called? Audio microphone. Holy cow, no telling. Probably a mic that I have plugged in. Oh, I know what it is. That's the wireless mic. Never mind. That's not on, is it? No, okay. All right. If you're just joining us, we're getting warmed up for the show. We're a few minutes late getting started, of course. Isn't that always the case? And we will get you out in time for the World Cup for sure, for this afternoon, this evening, depending on where you're watching from. I noticed that Giles and Martin and some of that UK crew are not in chat today, and they're probably getting ready for the match. If they're football fans, that is. If they're football fans. Not what we call it here in the U.S., but since it's an all-European match today and yesterday, we will call it by the proper name, shall they say. And a hat tip to Martin Junkins for keeping me on the straight and narrow for that. All right, let's see. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, do I have the Facebook feed up? Let me pop the Facebook feed up here and see if we can see what's going on there. We typically don't monitor the Facebook comments during the show. So if you're watching us on Facebook, we'd love to have you comment. I see David's there. Hey, David. But if you want to kind of get in on the show, love to have you come over to easternshorebroadcasting.com. That's where the official chat room is, and that's where everybody's chatting today. So if you're watching us on Facebook, and I see there are half a dozen or so folks are, come on over to Eastern Shore Broadcasting, hit the watch live button, and then you can see the chat as well. So Daniel, come on over, and anyone else that might be watching there. And then if you're watching us on YouTube directly, if you're a subscriber, come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com right down here at the bottom, and you can get in on the chat as well, because we're not doing a chat in YouTube. All right, let's see. Jonia Joseph is here, just arrived. Welcome. Daniel Wright is here. John Kraft is here. Glad to have you guys. And let's see if we can't get started. I worked, as you know, for the last couple of weeks, I've been having trouble with my intro. Really, hey, Martin, really it's not it's not trouble with the intro, it's trouble with the intro operator. I had rearranged some shortcuts and inadvertently, cut the link on some shortcuts, and so who knows what was really going on with them. But I found a lot of shortcuts that were pointing to inputs that didn't exist, or shortcuts that were pointing to, and this was because I changed from the XKeys 24, the XK24 to the XK, I think this is this the 60 or the 80? 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, it's the 80, okay, to an XK80, and of course they're not mapped the same, and where I want my buttons is not the same as well. I'll give you a little look at that. Let's see if we can put that up, put it in the screen. So you can see, I'll turn it right side up. There we go. So you can see the buttons that I use the most, and you can see the green ones are kind of highlighted. The buttons I use the most are here closest to me. The banana button here is the cough button. And then I've got other buttons that the folks at XKeys, PI Engineering, were kind enough to furnish me with some vMix buttons, some big buttons. Haven't figured out exactly what to use them with yet, And then, as you can see, it's kind of a work in progress. Here's a button that doesn't have a key on it. And then I've got a row of blues that I haven't quite figured out what to do with. And some of the keys are keycaps that were already printed. Like you can see this row of numerical keys right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and M6. Those are for guests when I have multiple guests in the studio. That way I can just isolate them. And then other buttons like the up, down, right, left button. Let's see if you can see that one right there. Yeah, there you go, right over here. I'm going to program to control the PTZ camera here, and then the button in the center will be probably the stop button. In vMix, when you give the PTZ camera a control through shortcuts through the API, well, I probably can figure out a way to do it, but right now when I press the button, it pans the camera right until I tell it to stop. And actually at the church, I've got the cursor keys mapped to right, left, up, down, and then the space bar is the stop button. Page up is the zoom out, and page down is zoom in. So there's George Vick. Hey, welcome. And Martin's here. All right. Glad to see you. Glad to have you. Okay, so enough of this chit chat. Let's get on with the show, shall we? This is the moment where we see if I've got my intro done. I'm a little nervous about this. I'll tell you what, we're going to test it before we really start the show. So bear with me. I'm going to press the. It's actually labeled Fade to Black Part 1. But really it's the intro. So let's see if anything happens when I do that. Well, there we go. Looks like it's working. Hey, all right. Woo! I'm loving this. Well, how about that? It worked. Let's start a show, shall we? I'm Tom Sinclair. This is Streaming Idiots. Welcome. Glad to have you here on a special World Cup edition of Streaming Idiots. World Cup coming up here shortly, and didn't want to have the Streaming Idiots show in the middle of World Cup. I mean, who would schedule a show that happened in the pregame to the World Cup or in the middle of World Cup? I mean, who would be an idiot? Well, I almost was. So, but a hat tip to France in their defeat of Belgium yesterday. I was rooting for Belgium, but both sides played well, and we're looking for a good match today. England and Croatia here in another hour or so. I'm rooting for England, but it should be a good match. My boys over there, in fact, I don't know if many of you remember when we had the NDI dog on here. You remember the big fiasco a couple of years ago when Panasonic, was it Panasonic? I don't want to call out a company that I may be wrong in. Anyway, a company announced that they had an NDI compatible camera. Well, they were just using the NewTek whatever the NewTek Connect app was, whatever it was, to make the camera available, which every camera is available like that. So it wasn't really an NDI camera like the NewTek NDI camera that's come out, or the PTZ Optics NDI camera that's come out. Anyway, so we did a parody on that and something called NDI Leash. And I used my Jack Russell Terrier named Rooney. Well, Rooney is named for, yes, that's right, you guessed it, is named for Wayne Rooney. And so we have Rooney running around the house, and the Jack Russell, if you're familiar with the breed, they are jumpers. And this rascal, he can jump. Not that Wayne Rooney was ever one to get that far off the ground, but he did have an eye for the ball and could certainly put it in the net. So that's our hat tip to the English side, and we certainly wish them a lot of skill and speed and stamina today. I was thinking yesterday that Belgium would pull off one of their, stunning comebacks in the last 6 minutes of extra time, but it just was not to happen. I really hoped, and then we get to play some more. We get 2 more periods in extra time, and then maybe go to kicks from the mark. But it was just not to be. It was the day to send the Belgian boys home. Well, they weren't boys. They were the older squad, one of the oldest squads in the World Cup. And I think the French squad is one of the youngest squads. I'd heard that the only squad that was younger was the Nigerian squad, which they were a mess. But we didn't come here to talk about football, or as we would call it here in the States, soccer. We're here to talk about live streaming. And just I guess I got off on the story with my Rooney, the NDI dog, NDI compatible dog. So there we go. So let's see. Oh, somebody is saying that in the chat that they thought the Brits are the youngest. I don't think so. I thought somebody said yesterday that the Nigerians were the youngest, but I'm not an expert. I just play one on the internet. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, so looks like we've got our intro working today. If you're going, what in the world? Who is this guy and what is he talking about? The Streaming Idiots is a show dedicated to folks that do live streaming, and at some point in your journey in doing live streaming, you're gonna feel like an idiot. Something is not gonna work. Just yesterday you had it all polished and ready to go, and you bring it out today and you press the button and it doesn't work. Well, if you feel like an idiot, then this show is for you, because that's what happens. If you do this long enough, you're going to screw up. There's no doubt about it. Even the professionals screw up. It's funny to watch TV sometimes. What was it in the Olympics when NBC was doing the Olympics last year or the year before, and there was a space of 30 seconds of dead air in the middle of the show when ads were running, when advertisements were running for $1 million, $2 million every 30 seconds. That somebody lost a bunch of money really, really quickly. Holy cow. So idiot mistakes can happen at the highest level. They can happen at the highest level, and the purpose of this show is to help you avoid them, and you get to watch me have them and laugh at me. So for the last, that's the intro to say for the last 3 weeks, our intro that you saw just a second ago with the jaws of death, thank you, Martin K, has not been working. I had the shortcuts messed up. And I've got multiple shortcuts going there. And what had happened is I had switched X keys from an XK24 to my new XK80, which, as you can see, is still in the process of being populated with keys. And a hat tip to PI Engineering for these really cool 4x4 buttons that say vMix live streaming software on them. And then you can see I've also got a banana button. The banana button is my cough button. So if I have to cough or sneeze, I can mash that one and it'll turn my mic off, and then I can mash it again. And it's big enough that I can find it easily in that, that panic before a sneeze or a cough. So if you're just joining us, Rich, we're on the show. We're on the call earlier today because of the World Cup coming up here in a little bit. We didn't want to be live streaming during the middle of the World Cup. As some people apparently will be doing today. Ill-advised, and fortunately, I was able to stumble on the on the right schedule, and so we're doing a little bit earlier show, and we'll see how that goes. Danny wants me to start the whole show again because he had to step out for a soda, so it's not going to happen, Danny, at least not this time. Although I have been known to restart shows time and time again. Anyway, back to the fiasco with the intro. So I upgraded from an XK24, which I was maxed out on. Couldn't do anymore. But I've got how many inputs am I using today? Looks like, let's go down to the bottom of the list. Yeah, 79 inputs. So that's a lot, and not all of those have shortcuts, obviously. But there's some shortcuts that do things that use multiple inputs, and the intro was one of them. And so I've got this video that's the Jaws of Death that plays all the TVs moving through this industrial scene like a factory, and then the Jaws of Death open up on me, and that was not working. And that shortcut, it's shortcut whatever it is on the keyboard here. I'm not going to press it. Who knows what will happen. But that shortcut actually fires off, or that key on the keyboard actually fires off 5 or 6 different shortcuts. And let me bring those up here. And in fact, I'll get a screen cap, and you can take a look at them too. So let's screen cap that. I guess we're going to have to get a screen cap of the whole screen, because we can't do a screen cap until we get something up there to screen cap. So let's do a local desktop capture. We'll just capture this display. Yeah, that's got it. Okay, so let me fire that one up to you. You can see this is what I'm working with today. I ought to have a cam on my studio, because you can see these pictures right here. This is when we first moved in and just threw up a temporary thing. So let's see. So let's, what do we want to do? We want to go to shortcuts. We'll go in the back door to shortcuts here. And, let's also, before we do that, let's go into this, and we'll do a sharpen. And that'll help you see it a little bit more clearly. So let's go in the back door to shortcuts, edit. And Martin Sinclair at vMix has added a new button right here in the top of the shortcuts menu called Find. And I really appreciate that. I don't know whose idea that was, but that says if you've got a key on your keyboard like an X key, and you want to say, well, what button is it? I'm going to click Find, and then I'm going to press the button that initiates my intro, which is the Fade to Black Part 1 button. And that is MIDI note off, channel 1, note 14, velocity 0. Now if I hold it down, it'll give me a velocity of 127. So you can tell that there's some things you can do with that. I think my old Korg Nano control that had the sliders on it was able to use 0 through 127 and could control all sorts of things like that. So I know that note 14, channel 1, note 14, is going to be the intro. So let's go find, yeah, there's note 114, 114, 114, 114, 114, 114, and we'll scroll through the list, and then another 114 at the bottom. So that's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 different shortcuts in vMix that are fired off by this one button on the XK80. And we'll review them very quickly. Fade to black, obviously that just fades to black. And so that's the first thing I want to happen when I move from pre-show to the show, is I want it to fade to black, so that when I start the recording, which we'll get to in just a second, I'm not recording the last half a second of whatever was on the screen before I started this whole thing. The next thing I want to do is move in. I want to preview input. That is, I'm moving a particular input into the preview window. In this case, it's input number 18, 18, which is a virtual input, and is the SI, Streaming Idiots, show open. And what that is an input that has several different multi-views in it. So I'm basically saying, okay, move that input into preview. And then the next one down is a little cute. It basically says, I want you to restart the video that I used for the closing. So whatever I've done in the pre-show or the pre-show, the closing video has restarted and gone back to the very beginning, so that when I close out my show, I don't pick up that video in the middle. So I did that just as a way to ensure, in case I did some last-minute testing or did something amiss, that video is always in the start position when it comes time. Now I want to fade the input that's in preview, which is my input number 18, Virtual Streaming Idiot Show Open. I want to fade that and put that into the output window. And then I'm going to fade to black so that it fades back in and we can see it and hear it. And that's those first, so that's the fade, there's the fade to black. And then, once I've done that, I want a script to start. Well, the script is right over here in scripting, is this one right here called Start ASUS Record. And this scripting feature is available in the 4K and the Pro editions, and I'll give you a peek at what that is. And it basically is a whole bunch of junk identifying the IP address of the second PC and telling it start recording. So pretty simple there, so we'll close that one out. I've also got, and it says ASUS because I used to use an ASUS laptop to do this and I've never renamed it. And the ASUS Stop Record, as you can imagine, is the same kind of thing. In fact, everything's the same except the function is stop recording. And I've got some others that I use for the same thing. So let's go back to shortcuts. So number 14 is a script start. And then there's one last number 14 down at the very end, which is input number 78, which is a video. I want that video to play. Now that video is the Jaws of Death video that you see at the opening, and it is an input that is part of, we'll scroll back up to the top here. This one, number 18, it's one of the multi-views in number 18. So it starts, so when number 18 populates that, it starts that. And don't ask me why it's that way. I remember when I set it up, that was the only way I could get it to work. And I think there were some reasons for it, but I don't remember what they were. Now, one other thing that goes on, and we'll go out of this for just a second, and we're going to bring up number 18, which is this one right here, is number 18, I believe, has a trigger in it. Yeah, it has a trigger in it that says when number 18 transitions in, and remember that's part of my shortcut, I want to cut to the main shot after a delay of 22.5 seconds. And so basically what that does is after the Jaws of Death is completed, which takes about 20 seconds, another 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, something like that, just for a cushion, I want to switch to my main shot. And let's get rid of this guy for just a second. And this is my main shot. Now, the Jaws of Death opens onto a shot that looks like this, but it's not this particular input. And so what happens is if I leave the Jaws of Death input up there where the jaws have opened and I'm now revealed like this, looking like this, it doesn't operate everything else the way I want it to do. For example, with this input, you saw that my lower third came up and a little tag right here. In fact, I'll bring them back up again. There you go. Those come up as part of a trigger when the main shot happens. And so the main shot will have this come up, and then, let's see, let's go back to main shot for just a second. Yeah. And then this'll fade, and then this guy will fade. And maybe it's not going to do it now because we came from a different shot. So let's see, let's just, let's cut back to that shot, and then we'll go back to the main shot. And we'll see, yeah, that pops in, and that pops in, and then in just a second they'll pop out. Now, at the end of the show, I have another button called Outro. I guess the first button should be called Intro now. Yeah, there, that guy just disappeared, and this guy's fixing to go. It'd been nice if the timing was right, you know? Anyway, at the end of the show, the Jaws of Death close down on me, but before they do, we've switched another input into program that looks just like this, except one of its multi-views is the Jaws of Death. And of course, the Jaws of Death has a chroma key green portion to the video that is keyed out and allows me to have the jaws close down in on me. Now, I've got lots of choices in that, or let me rephrase that. The Jaws of Death also contains the audio track that has the theme music for this show. Which, by the way, I have a license for, and I think, who was it? Motorola or somebody was using it in a cell phone ad. And I said, hey, that's my song. But I didn't pay for exclusive rights. I just paid to have rights to use it. So anyway, that was pretty funny. So the other thing that I like for the closing, and I don't do it all the time, but that my mic stays active for the closing. And when that happens, that means that I can add a little ad lib, in with the music at the very end of that section of the show. And that's always kind of fun. I enjoy doing that. So that's a quick overview. Yeah, Ken says that your opening is not clean. There's something happening in the first second, like a quick flash of something extra. Well, that may be. Probably this shot right here flashing in, and then the fade to black happening. Yep, I'll have to look at that. I think on the recording, though, the recording starts after that. And so, you guys that watch live, y'all are just crash dummies. You're just there to tell me what I'm doing wrong so that I can get it right the next time. Yeah, who wants to be perfect? That's right. Welcome, John T. Glad to have you. Who else has shown up? Martin Kay's here. And Dave Edwards is here. And John T. Ovinas. Dean is here. Welcome, Dean. Glad to have you. Dean's probably on his lunch break down there in Orlando. And Jerome is here. Jerome, how are you, sir? Jerome, I don't know if you guys were at the Streaming Idiots meetup in Las Vegas back in April at NAB, but Jerome was there and had his brother there, and it was good to see them. Yes, indeed. Okay, so we're talking about workflow today, and we're talking about how I'm doing my workflow. As a PC builder, you would expect, Tom's got the latest, greatest stuff. He's got the new process. Intel is sending him processors before they release them to everybody else. NVIDIA is sending him graphics cards before anybody else gets them. Yeah, right. If that were to happen, I would be as shocked as you. And it might. I do have a young friend that works for Intel. Anyway, that's a different story. Actually, what I use is, and this is the challenge of the PC builder in me, part of it's challenge, part of it's lazy, part of it's cheap, is that the PCs that I'm using for live streaming are cast-off equipment. They are old generation PCs, old generation capture cards, old generation CPUs, motherboards. The drives are new. I'll tell you that. The drives are new, and everything's Windows 10. For all you Windows 7's users, Windows 10 is okay. But the CPU that runs this show right here, in fact, you saw it just a second ago, this show right here, is an i7 quad-core processor, but it's a 2600K. Well, 2600, if you know your Intel numbers, 2600 is the second generation of the CPUs. We're up to the 8th generation now, which is, light years ahead. In dog years, yeah, it's a ton of time. But I like the challenge of seeing, okay, what is the slowest, oldest PC that vMix is going to work with? Well, that's what we're experimenting with here. It's not an experiment. We've been doing it for years. I guess you can't call it an experiment anymore. In the second generation i7, and we're running at 20% CPU, but we're cheating. We're cheating. And this is for those of you that have a lot of old PCs laying around and are saying, how can I get the most bang for my buck? Well, with the advent of NDI, divide and conquer becomes a good workflow. And so basically I've said, okay, I'm doing my production here. When I have callers, they're coming into this vMix right here. When I'm bringing in photographs, when I'm bringing in whatever, this is all on a PC, Martin. When I'm bringing that in, it's coming into this PC that's sitting over there in a server rack. But through NDI, it's going out of this PC into another PC that's got about the same specs, an i7 2600K CPU. I think it's got a 1050 graphics card. That was my GTX 1050 from NVIDIA. That was one of my one new part in this one, just because I didn't have an old graphics card I was willing to use. And that guy is handling the streaming and the recording. And he's running at about 25% CPU. And he's going 1080p. I think it's 10. Let's see what the streaming specs are here today. No, 1080p 4.5 megabits per second to YouTube, and 720p 1.5 megabits per second to Facebook. And I don't think, no, we're not doing a Twitter or Periscope feed today. So he's not stretched. He's not stressed. The main PC is not stretched or stressed. And I've got the ability to bring in other callers, which will add to the load on this PC. If I have my webcams connected, webcams are notorious little CPU eaters. On a 2600K CPU, the webcam takes about 10%. So I'm judicious using that. In fact, when I was having my problems with render time this morning, one of the first things I did was cut that camera out. Didn't seem to make any difference, but it's always it's always one of the first things I look at is what's eating up CPU. And I know desktop captures, for example, will eat CPU, and sometimes NDI is a bit CPU hungry. It just depends on what's going on. So somebody's saying you can also use older versions of vMix. What's really funny is I think vMix is actually, even though it has more features, I think it's actually a faster piece of software now than it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. That Martin is continuing to tweak the code and build in optimization. I know when Windows 10 came out and I upgraded this PC actually from Windows 7 to Windows 10 immediately and had a terrible experience with it, and then reverted back to Windows 7 and recommended, I don't know if you remember this, and recommended that Windows 10 was not ready for production. Martin reached out to me and he said, Windows 10 has got some goodies in it that really make vMix sing. And this is Martin talking now, and he said, and I have designed vMix to work with those things in Windows that will make it sing. So when you feel more comfortable with Windows 10, get it, because it's going to make vMix work better. And it really does. And so if you've got an older PC and you say, I want to run vMix on it, one of the first upgrades you might think of is upgrading from an older version of Windows to Windows 10, if it's compatible with Windows 10, because Windows 10 will be able to help vMix run faster and better. So, big thumbs up for Windows 10, at least in that regard. I was checking this morning because I know yesterday was Patch Day, second Tuesday of the month, if I recall, is when Microsoft sends out all its patches. And so last week, after last week's show, I was careful to turn off updates. I'm running Windows 10 Pro, so I can turn off updates for I think 4 or 5 weeks. So I wanted to let the patches come out this week and make sure everything was okay before I allowed things to be upgraded. So that's that story. Boy, how did I get off on that tangent? Sorry about that. John T. says, no problems with patches yesterday. Well, that's good. That's good. Rich is generally the one that clues us in as to what's going on with the patches, because he manages a huge data center of some kind, and I guess everything gets patched at that point. And Dave says, make sure that your upgrade to Windows 10 is a new clean install. That's a good point, Dave. Although this PC right here is actually started out with Windows XP, upgraded to Windows 7, upgraded to Windows 8, reverted back to Windows 7 because 8 was so awful, upgraded to Windows 10, downgraded back to Windows 7, and then upgraded to Windows 10 again, all not clean installs. And so again, why did you do it that way, Tom? Shouldn't you do a clean install? Of course you should. But the idea is, what's the worst that can happen? Let's find out and see what is the worst that can happen. And so far, it's been, a year and a half, maybe, since I upgraded this PC to Windows 10 for the second time. It's been rock solid. And so I, again, don't recommend it, but I just wanted to see what would happen. It's like, you tell the kid, don't touch the hot burner on the stove. Yeah, you see the scars right there? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I had to find out, is it really that hot? Yeah, and you probably know some people like me. Okay, so we've got a second PC that's doing streaming and recording. And what I want to experiment with, and this is going to be a jump forward to, I wish I knew which one it was. I've got a PC that I built as a test bed that's got an i3 in it. I think it's either 7th or 8th generation i3. It might be an 8th generation i3. And it's really fast. It's 4 gigahertz. Gigahertz? Is that right? Megahertz? Anyway, it's 4.0. I forget my designation at that point. And the rest of the specs are typical vMix specs: 16 gigabytes of RAM, NVIDIA graphics card 1050 or better, solid state drive for the main drive, platter drive, spinning drive, hard drive for the second drive, and then other tweaks that we do here. And I'm thinking, okay, number one, I built it to say, is that going to be enough for a fairly simple production to do it all on one PC? And it's gigahertz. Thank you, Jonia. Is an i3 going to be enough for a simple vMix production? Let's say, 12, 15 inputs, couple cameras, a capture card or two. A capture card or maybe a dongle or two, maybe an NDI input, maybe a vMix call input. Is that kind of light duty? Is this new super fast i3 going to be enough to support that? And the other thing I want to see is, how far will it go? I'm using 79 inputs right here on this particular PC. I've got another 10 inputs on the other PC. They're not really stressful inputs. Some of them are scrolls and the countdown timer, before the show starts. All of that's over on that PC. So this one's free to do. Yeah, cores and threads, John T. I don't know. And I don't think I have a way of finding out easily. So I'll have to answer that on another show, or else I'll put it in the YouTube notes and post a note in Facebook after the show when I find out. So the question is, will it work as a light duty production PC? How big a production can I get before the performance starts lagging where it's not going to be serviceable? And then the second question is, will it be suitable for a secondary PC? So, for example, my second PC is running a vMix Pro license on it, as is my primary PC. I mean, I'm a vMix reseller. I can get licenses at cost. But what if I had a vMix Basic HD, the $60 license on this second one? Could I do everything I needed to do with just 4 inputs? And the answer probably is yes. So I'll set that the i3 PC up probably with vMix Basic HD first to see what it would be and whether it will handle this duty of streaming and recording. I had thought about trying to get that done today, and I realized there were too many other things that I would need to do to set it up. I want to export the format, export the presets and the list of all the settings from this particular edition of vMix running on the second PC, and then import it on the i3 in order to have an apples and apples comparison. Yep. Okay, Martin K says he just bought an 8th generation i5 8500 hex core for a home PC. And curious to see how it compares with the i7 CPUs that are a few generations old. And I think I just shipped one of those. No, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago. But it was a screamer, Martin. It was a screamer. Chad says, for your X keys issue, have you used MacroWorks Tools Advanced Reset to Factory Default? That fixed mine. Chad, if you're talking to me, my X keys issue is here, not here. So it was just a matter of me not taking the time to get everything right. So I'll keep you up to date on the i3 experiment as it goes along. I'll keep you up to date with the studio. We really haven't done anything in the studio yet. No, it's pretty much the same. It looks, I don't have a camera set up on it. But actually, I do have a PTZ camera. Let's see if we can make this PTZ camera show the studio. So we're going to zoom out. And in fact, why don't we go to, we'll go to this shot. Because this is the way it looks. I mean, this is it. And so we'll pan a little bit. Over here to my right, you can see the lights that are illuminating the green screen. And then here, you can see that I've got just a giant moving blanket hanging from the ceiling, and some really cool hangers. I don't know if you can zoom in on those hangers. Yeah, there you go. They just clip right into the suspended ceiling, so it makes it really easy to bring things in without putting holes in the wall or causing other problems. And then you can see out my front door. The camera can see out the front door, but I can't because the screen is in the way, and the screen blocks some of the daylight. Still having a little bit of problem with traffic noise, and eventually we're going to do some sound treatment on the front door. And there's a camera set up for occasional use. There's another room divider, again, intended to help break up the sound a little bit. And that's as far as we can go that direction. So we'll come back around. You can see the same thing, lights there. You can see the second PC here. You're seeing the stream from that guy. And then, of course, you see the, there we go. My lovely, oh boy, I love this mic. The AT897, the Audio-Technica. And you can also get a good shot right there of the poles that I use to hang the lights from. And this is something I used in my home studio. And basically it's just a spring-loaded pole, and it's adjustable from anywhere from 5 feet to 10 feet. And so it's set up 10 foot, floor to ceiling. And right now it's just carrying a couple lights. Now you can also see another moving blanket. And that is set up there. Let's see what we can see through that area. Yeah, there we go. You can see just the edge of the server rack with the chair with a moving blanket on it and a sound panel in front of it trying to knock off some of the sound. Somebody's asking what my like and trust is. Well, actually, I've got 3 of them. There's a no, but he keeps falling down. No, like, and trust. And that reminds me that when I talk to you guys, you're going to be in the trust portion when you make a purchase with me, but you're going to have to start out by getting to know who I am and then deciding that you like me, and then eventually you're going to trust me with your money. And we'll get to the commercial part in just a second. All right, so we'll keep going around here a little bit, and we can see there's another sound panel, and you can see behind that is, can you see much? Let's see if we can zoom in on that. Yeah, you can see just the back of a server rack right there of a PC that's under construction. Yeah, that'll be going out next week. All right. And then you can see that I'm a mess. Stuff everywhere. Okay. So we'll hit the home button and then zoom back in a little bit, see if we can't get the shot right. And we'll go back to the shot. There we go. So that was a quick studio tour. Daniel says he loves my super expensive light fixtures. Yeah, it's, it definitely, from my perspective, is the ability to do lots of things without spending lots of money. Because number one, you don't always know that this is something that you want to do long term, so why invest a ton of money in it? The second is you can always upgrade later. And so if I've got, $5 in each one of those light fixtures, and so that's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got $30 in light fixtures, and then the little photography kit that I got from Amazon that I'll be replacing soon. I've got, $80 in lights. Yes, eventually I do want to upgrade. These are LED bulbs, Daniel. Yeah, we started out with incandescents. It didn't take long back in the home studio to realize that raised the temperature of the studio by 15 degrees during a show that lasted 45 minutes. So we went to compact fluorescents, the CFLs, the little curlicue light bulbs, and they helped some with heat, but the LEDs are the bomb. I mean, I can reach out, and I've got my hand on the LED light right now, and I couldn't have touched the compact fluorescent for more than a and the incandescent bulb, I would have burned my finger if I'd have touched it at all. So LEDs are definitely the bomb, and if you're doing the home LED, I would suggest that you go ahead and get a little extension cord. Yeah, I was just going to make it into the shot. There we go. That will allow you to dim them. And so I can dim those guys a little bit. Yeah. And they're actually pointed at the green screen, so I don't want to dim those too much right now. But I used them other ways when I was in the home studio. Danny said he tried a 4-foot LED shop light, but the clamp-on lights still work better. You just have more flexibility. Yep. And I think PTZ Optics, Paul and Tess did a show yesterday on lighting. If you haven't seen that, you might want to take a look. So there we go. Something else I was going to share with you. Well, remember what it was. Oh, well. Oh, I know what it was. Yes. I wonder if my stinger button is working. Let's find out. No, it's not working. Let's see if we can't redo that real quickly. Edit. Add. Find the key to the stinger. Okay. Function is going to be transition, which is a stinger one. Okay. Okay. So let's see if this works. Try this one. Pow! There we go. All right. All right. And this is the infomercial part of the show. Actually, this is the commercial part. You got the info. And again, hat tip to Martin Kay for the awesome animation here. There's a little railroad track. I should have showed you that before when I was zooming the camera around. There's a little railroad track. We've got those boxes staged off over here to my left, and they just move through, and there's a teeny little railroad train that pushes them as they go through. So it's really nice. Martin shipped that over to me from England. I'm just teasing. I do represent vMix and Magewell and Yuan and PTZ Optics and X-Keys and Penimation and BirdDog. We're beginning to expand our offering a little bit. And so if I can help you with any of those products, or if I can design and build a custom streaming PC for you, and is it custom, Tom? Does that mean it's fancy and expensive? Well, it's fancy, yes, but it's expensive. Well, it's more expensive than a Best Buy PC, but it also works the first time, and it's loaded and configured and ready to go. We also rent those, so if you have a need for one short term, we also rent PTZ cameras, so if you have a need short term for something like that, we can do it. Is it cheap? No, it's not cheap, but it's cheaper than buying it. And it belongs to somebody else. So hat tip to Martin Kay for that cool infomercial portion. I guess I probably need to do a different backdrop for that, but I don't have the backdrop. Anyway, we'll talk about that. So if I can help you with any of those things, last year, in fact, the last 2 years, we've been the #1 vMix reseller in the U.S. Isn't that cool? I'm so delighted. And I know when we were working, when PTZ Optics was introducing their NDI licenses for their cameras, we were the #1 reseller, I think, other than B&H Photo. We were the #1 real reseller for them too. So it's fun to get into that and to learn about it and to know it intimately, so that when somebody calls and has a question, we can answer the question. Somebody was asking me the other day, he said, well, when I buy vMix, should I buy it from you, or should I just get it from the vMix website? And I said, well, it may take a few extra minutes to get it from me as opposed to getting it from the vMix website. But if you buy it from me, you get me with it. Plus, you get all the backing of vMix and their tech support department for the same price. And the same is true for PTZ Optics and Magewell and Yuan and X-Keys. In fact, we're toying with, and I'd love to get your input on this one, we're toying with doing a one-day sale every month that's just a killer sale, like, buy one, get one free kind of stuff. And just have that rotate to all sorts of goods and make it kind of an insider kind of thing. That is, you've got to be watching the show. You've got to be on our mailing list to find out about this stuff. It's not just out there for everybody. Probably end up losing money on it, but that's okay. All right, so we're going to move into post-show. Thank you for watching today. If you've got to pop off to get to the pregame for the big match between England and Croatia, I certainly understand, and I hope my boys in England, the Three Lions, are able to pull it out and go to the finals on Sunday. So on behalf of all streaming idiots all over the world, I'm Tom Sinclair. This has been Streaming Idiots. We hope to see you next week, and we hope also that our outro works when we hit the outro button. Let me show you again on the XK80. We've got a shipment of these due in Friday, by the way. The outro button. Here we go, right there. All right. And we're out. We're done. Yay. All right. All right. All right. It worked. It worked. What I forgot to tell you was the outro also stops the recording. So I'm looking over here to the left. You know how the little record button is red down at the bottom? I never see the one up at the top, but the little record button is red down at the bottom. And so I'm over there kind of watching, when is it going to stop recording? Well, it stops recording right after the music stops. And so I know I'm done at that point. And you know what? I ought to get it to trigger coming to this pre-show screen. The problem is sometimes I have a guest, and so when I have a guest, I don't use this pre-show screen. All right, what did I miss? What did you guys say? Did you talk about me behind my back? But of course. And Danny, thank you for that post over on Facebook saying that the main chat was on my website. That's great. And Durnell McWilliams from Trinidad was there watching the Facebook feed. Thank you, Durnell. He says he loves the show. Well, thank you very much. All right, Jerome says he would like a special sale. I'm thinking about doing it on the 13th of every month. Because, everybody is like, oh, the 13th, it's bad luck. Well, let's turn that around, make the 13th something good. What do you say? Jonas says, what became of the treats you used to have? If you're talking about the Dum-Dums, they are actually still in the home studio. I need to move them up here. I haven't had one in a while. Let's see. Danny's working on building a couple of LED panels using the LED strips from a broken LED TV. Oh my goodness. I love it. Don't use CFLs. They raise your blood sugar. Oh my goodness. What else? Jonia says, sale any day is great. And John says 13 is lucky in, you guys can see it right over there. Oh, that's the treats. Yes, Jim says no one has been assigned to bring treats to post shows. That is true. Ken says a sale on the bird dog. Ooh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Actually, excuse me, get a frog in my throat here. One of my thoughts was to actually do a bundle. So if I can work a deal on something, and I can bundle something else with it. So like an X Keys and a vMix license or something like that. That's what I'm really working on. I'm working on a deal. Actually, I'm working on a couple of deals right now. We'll just see if they come out. We'll see if I'm as connected as I think I am. Bird Dog Mini release date update. No update. Last I heard was going to be fall, IBC. I'm guessing November. Kyle, tell you what, we'll get one under the Christmas tree for you. When you celebrate Christmas Day, you will get yours. We'll have a special FedEx delivery to Kyle's house on Christmas Day. Jimmy J. Rock Reed is here. Welcome. Glad to have you. Chad showed up. We knew that. Who else has popped in here? Rich is here. Rich Tamayo. Good. I probably butchered your last name. My apologies. Otis is here. Hey, man. Keaton. Welcome, Keaton. And John O'Malley, of course. Bird Dog Mini for football. I wouldn't plan on it. I would not plan on it. Nope, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. Martin K says everything tends to be a bit late from Bird Dog. Yeah. Like the original Bird Dog that was 18 months late. Oh my gosh. I shouldn't have teased Dan and Eamon so much when they were on the show a couple of weeks ago. Bless their hearts. I'm sure they get teased by everybody all the time on that. But it was a great, if you didn't catch that show, go back in the archives. It was a great show because they talked about some of the challenges that they faced going from the kind of the sales marketing end to the actual manufacturing end, and that everything took 3 times as long as they thought. Danny says, Tom, are you still using the Logitech C920 on your wall? No. I use it occasionally. I didn't use it today. It's not hanging on the wall today. Kyle said he thought the reseller may know. Well, they're not telling me much. You know, I'm hearing the same thing you're hearing. That's the thing. I don't have an inside story. And here's the other thing. The times that I have an inside story, I'm always sworn to secrecy. You know, it's not an official NDA, but it's like if you share this, we'll never talk to you again kind of NDA. And John's right. I can't be trusted because I'll forget, what am I not supposed to say? Can I say this? Can I say that? Or sometimes I'll just get all excited. The vMix guys stopped talking to me because, they'd say, we're thinking about doing this. Oh, vMix is definitely doing this would be what I would say. And they would say, no. That's not what we meant. That's not what we said. So, that's the thing. You can be in the know, but if you spill the beans, you'll never be in the know again. So the question is, when are the beans big enough to be worth spilling? Because you'll never be able to spill them again. Yeah. Kyle says he counts on my excitement to let things slip. Sometimes I do. What was fun? What was it? vMix 19, I think, or vMix 18. Maybe it was even older than that. Anyway, there was a special edition, pre-beta special edition called let's say it was vMix 17, vMix 17 Tom edition that the vMix guys sent me to look at. And evidently I spilled the beans in that one. Or maybe I mentioned that I was using it in a show or something like that, and I haven't gotten a single Tom edition of vMix ever since. Hint, hint, Martin, Tim. Leaking is in fashion these days, says Michael Graves. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Michael Graves is renting a couple of PTZ cameras from us for an event he's got going in Chicago. Hope that goes well. We will have those on their way to you next Tuesday so that you will have them by Friday. It was funny, and this has nothing to do with anything, but Michael gave me the address of the hotel that he wants them shipped to, which is the same address, and I checked, that's on the hotel website, and the same address I checked when you call the hotel and ask for their address. But UPS does not know that address. Curious, isn't it? Well, as it turns out, that particular hotel has a UPS store in the hotel. That must be a really nice hotel. And I think I talked to somebody at the desk, and they said, "Oh yeah, we've got a store here." And I called the store, and they weren't open at that, or they were busy, and it went to voicemail anyway. And so I went to their website, the hotel's UPS store website, and the address was different. Same basic street address, but the street name was slightly different. And so when I figured that out, then I found out UPS would take that address. So they would not take Upper Wacker. They wouldn't take East Upper Wacker. They would only take East Wacker. Isn't that crazy? Yes, that's right. It was a Swiss Hotel, Chicago. Martin Junkins says, right to left, Pickford, Walker, Stone, McGuire, Trippier, Ali, Henderson, Lingard, Young, Sterling, Kane. Well, there you go. That must be something coming up here. Paul D is late. Well, Paul D, you're going to be late for a match here if you hang around with us too long. Oh, Michael says that ClueCon is the event, a telecom geek gathering. Well, there you go. Cool, man. I figured ClueCon would be about the game Clue, but apparently not. And Jonia is missing messages in Chatwing. Oh, so you're looking at my Chatwing and you're saying, oh, I'm missing messages. That may be. Jeff Moore says, you rent gear? I didn't know that. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Jeff, just to fill you in, it's very basic stuff. I mean, it's streaming PCs and PTZ Optics cams. And occasionally, I haven't done it lately, but occasionally I'll rent the Magewell capture cards. I mean, the Magewell dongles, USB 3 dongles. So, excuse me. You're not boring me, really, I promise. And it's, it's those times when you want to do something that's bigger than what you would normally do, that you don't want to have to buy equipment for that you would never ever use again. So you can pick up what you need on a rental, and rental prices are outrageous. There's no question about that. But my guess is that I can rent a camera like a PTZ Optics camera, and who knows the abuse that it's getting, and it could be an unintentional abuse. You put the thing on an 8-foot tripod, and somebody bumps it. There you go. And the camera bounces. The cameras, frankly, are pretty durable, but I don't know about that. We'll have to see. We will see. Anybody going to IBC in Amsterdam coming up in a couple of months? That should be a good show. I think the vMix guys put out a notice recently that they were going, and what their booth was. I think Rudy is working with them this year, as is Jens. So if you're going and you haven't met Rudy and Jens, and of course Martin and Tim, I think both of them will be there. Michael Graves says, in his case, renting a PTZ Optics camera lets me use them as NDI sources to a laptop. Yeah, yep, and it eliminates the whole capture card debacle. Yep, exactly. Eliminating capture card hardware. Yeah. Jeff Moore works for a rental house, but sometimes needs equipment to fill in stuff I don't have. Knowing you rent, the cameras may come in handy. All right. Currently, in our rental inventory, we have a PTZ Optics 12X and a PTZ Optics 30X. And I think we're going to be adding a P. No. It's not a P, it's a Z, the Z Cam, the Z20X. So it's a zoom, it's a fixed camera, but with a 20X zoom. So we'll be putting one of those in there. And we also have the VL, PTZ Optics VL, but I think the use for that's pretty limited. Yep. All right, well, I've got a match I need to go prepare for. Not that I'm playing, but I'm a big fan. So if there's nothing else that I can help you with, Michael, Jim, Jimmy, John, Danny, Paul, Kenny, Dave, Jerome, Ken, Ovinas, Keaton, Rich, Martin, George, Martin, Dean, Otis, Daniel, David, John, Kyle, Jonia. Let me know. Michael Graves says, you cannot rent bird dog units right now. Is that a question or a statement? The answer is, if you're asking me, is no, I don't have any that I'm renting. Would be interesting to put one in to inventory for that. We'll have to see. I mean, it's all about, capital. Where do you want to put your capital? Where is it going to make you money? And in my case, a lot of times the things that I rent are things that I also use. So I know that they're in good shape, number one, and so that they get use here as well as on the rental circuit. So there you go. Keaton says, all right, Keaton, thank you for the question. Is there a lag for NDI for live displays versus the dongle solutions? The answer is yes. NDI has, well, the dongle solutions. It probably depends on what the dongle solution is. If it's a Magewell, USB to HDMI capture, that's probably pretty quick. If it's a CamLink, $120 toy, NDI is going to beat the pants off there. And it just depends. It depends on so many different things. NDI is as fast as, or almost as fast as SDI. Yeah, Martin K. can better answer that question. Okay. In inquiring with them, they pointed me to a reseller in San Antonio, no rental opportunity. Okay, well, maybe there's a market there. Tom says, one quick question. I'd love to check out a Magewell USB 3 capture card. I don't want to buy one without trying it. Do you know how much rental would be for a week? What was that Tom Clancy movie? Anyway, the character is going, Harrison Ford is going to buy a helicopter. And he says, how much is a helicopter? And the guy says, $1 million. And he said, how much to rent it? And the guy says, $1 million. Oh, that's too funny. Tom, I don't have one in stock right now. I'll have to check my rental rates. I think they're about $60 a week to rent. But, what you may want to do if you're not sure, and, obviously I don't want to talk myself out of any business, but, that would be a good opportunity to buy one from Amazon. Same prices as me, free shipping from me too, but you can return it to Amazon if you don't like it. Yeah, Michael Graves, good question. NDI or NDI-HX? NDI is very fast. NDI-HX is not as fast, but still pretty darn quick. My PTZ Optics cameras on NDI-HX are as fast as SDI. John says that he thinks the Bird Dog's faster. Otis is thinking of going to NAB New York. All right. Martin Junkin says rental price would probably be cheaper than the shipping cost here to the Netherlands. Tom, you're welcome. Martin K., who I consider the definitive source in this subject, says that the Bird Dog encode is somewhat between 0 and 1 frame slower than a PCIe capture card. Martin, any feel, and I know you don't like to do those kind of off-the-cuff kind of things, but on the Magewell dongle, how that would compare to a Bird Dog? Keaton says for the live display projection and control room. Yeah, and Keaton, having worked with people on iMag before, the more the more links you put in that chain between the camera and the projector, the more the combination of latency that adds up. So that, number one, the fewer the chains, converters add latency, capture cards add latency, PCs add latency, cameras add latency, projectors add latency. Alfredo says, the purple chat background is hard to read the text via live, or maybe it's just me. Well, actually, what that is, where is that? That's funny. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, there it is. My recollection was that I did some color correction on this because I didn't like the color that it was coming out in. It was gray, and I turned it to purple. Is the green any easier to read? We can try that for a while. I just haven't gotten back into Chatwing, and part of what I'm doing is I use this same chat, obviously, to chat with you guys. And so I wanted to have stuff on the PC that was as dark as possible, but still readable because of the reflection off my glasses. That was the thing on that one. So it's gray here for me, but I just recolored it to a different coloration in vMix. Yeah, John T says, don't touch it. That's right. Needs more contrast. Well, yeah, and I think the text in Chatwing is actually not white. I think it's a gray. But it also this is squished, and that probably makes it more difficult to read too. So don't pay any attention to this. Just go to the chat room on the webpage. All right, Martin says the dongles are pretty much as fast as PCIe cards, only slightly slower and only slightly faster than the BirdDog in my tests. Sometimes all three are showing the same frame in vMix, which is why I'm saying the delay is between 0 and 1 frame. Well, that's pretty cool. Alfredo asks, is this the after show? Well, this is the post show. The after show comes after the post show. No, this is it. This is as good as it gets. There is nothing worth waiting for after this. Oh, that's too funny. That's too funny. You guys are a hoot. Y'all are a absolute hoot. Tom is oh, there he is. He switched over from Facebook to chat. That's great. Yeah, this is oh, Ken, you're going to get all sorts of crap for that. I've already caught crap for calling it soccer. This is the pre-football show, pre-World Cup show. Yeah, Paul and Tess didn't get the memo. I think, who was it? Was it Ken or John or somebody and I were kind of hinting to them yesterday that World Cup's coming. Have I practiced the Croatian national anthem? Safe to say, I have not. I haven't even practiced the English national anthem. Although I know the tune. I think it's a tune that we used to sing in church. Anyway. All right, Otis says, is there a need for a dongle using a Sony AX53 via USB or USB-C? A need? Well, what is a Sony AX53? I mean, how does it connect? It's a handy cam. $4K. specs, optics, recording, display, exposure control, features, input, output. Okay, the outputs are a micro HDMI. So you would need a HDMI to USB, but it's 4K. So you'd need a 4K dongle, USB to HDMI, 4K. Majorwell's got one. I think Uon's got one. Check our website, easternshorebroadcasting.com. They're there. What is the link for the World Cup today? I think it's on TV, Jim. I don't know that it's. I don't know it's available for free online in the U.S. Michael Graves says it's unlikely that it passes video stream over USB. Absolutely. Yeah, won't do that. It's going to have a dongle. That was the question he was asking. Good catch, Michael. Just found it on Fox. All right, well, I got to go. I got to get ready for this game. It was great hanging out with you guys. I loved it. I appreciate your interest and your patience. And I will see you guys next week. If I can help you in any way, you know how to get me. If you don't know how to get me, go to easternshorebroadcasting.com. There's a contact form on there. And the contact form, I know most people don't do this, but it's got my phone number on there. So if you need me, call me. All right? All right. We're going to let this stream run out for a little bit, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Here, where are we going? Right there.